The Fluoride Deception. Acknowledgments. This book owes a debt of gratitude to many. First is my wife, Molly, whose love and encouragement pushed me to the starting line and carried me across the finish. My first encounter with fluoride came as a BBC radio journalist working in New York in 1993, when I was asked to find an American angle on water fluoridation. Ralph Nader put me in touch with scientists at the US Environmental Protection Agency who opposed fluoridation. As I followed that story, I met the medical writer Joel Griffiths. His investigative article, Fluoride Commie Plot, or Capitalist Ploy, in the fall 1992 issue of the magazine Covert Action Information Bulletin is a masterful and detailed account of how fluoride is primarily an industrial and environmental story. Griffiths reported how vested economic interests were behind the earliest suggestions that fluoride be added to water, while those same interests for decades had assiduously suppressed information about fluoride's destructive effects on health and environment. Griffiths' paradigm-shifting story was my starting gun, and, as my Manhattan neighbor, I lent heavily on his reporting, interviews, documents, interpretation, and the gentle friendship of him and his wife Barbara as I wrote this book. Librarians are foot soldiers of democracy, and a legion of them sacked archives for me from Tennessee to Washington State and from Denmark to London. Everywhere I was met with eager help, digging out dusty files and courteous answers to the most foolish of questions. Special thanks to my favorite Metallica fan, Billy Broadus, at the University of Cincinnati Medical Heritage Center, Marjorie Cialante at the National Archives in Washington, D.C., and Donald Jerner at the Danish National Library of Science and Medicine. The book's spine is the authority of the many workers, scientists, and public officials who gave so freely of their time. Particular gratitude to Albert Bergstahler of the University of Kansas, the EPA's J. William Hersey, Robert J. Carton, Phyllis J. Mullenix, Kathleen M. Thiessen of Cena's Oak Ridge, Inc., and Robert F. Phelan of the University of California at Irvine, who each spent long hours reviewing documents and medical studies for me. I had the good fortune to serve an apprenticeship in the 1980s with the late Jonathan Whitney, one of the nation's top investigative reporters. From his hospital bed, weak from radiation treatment, he encouraged me. "This is your book," he said. I was helped with financial support from the Fund for Investigative Journalism, Inc., and the Institute for Public Affairs. A bouquet to Dan Simon at 7 Stories Press, who clapped his hands in glee when told he'd be taking on the great industrial trusts of America. Special thanks to Lexi Bloom and Ruth Hine for their critical and conscientious editing, to George Mira, Anna Louie, Chris Peterson, and India Amos for wrestling this octopus to the printer, and to the entire staff at 7 Stories Press for their passion and commitment. Many helped in myriad other ways. This book is theirs too. Gwen Jawuzin, Janet Michael, Bet Heilman, USA Today, and Peter Eisler, George Mavridis, Felicity Bryson, and Vincent Guerin, Ruth Miller at the Donora Historical Society, Anne-Lise Gotcha, Barbara Griffiths, Anthony and Nancy Thompson and family, Basil and Ann Henderson, Joan Ellen and Alex Zucker, Nina and David Altschiller, Bill and Janny Murtha, Tom Webster, Naomi Flack, Ken Case, Bob Woffenden, Trowder Sattler, Gordon Thompson, Clifford and Russ Honecker, Jacqueline O'Kittrell, Ellie Rudolph, Robert Hall, Martha Bevis, John Marks, Chris Treppel, Carol Patton, Gar Smith at Earth Island Journal, Leonard Crook, Danny Moses at Sierra Club Books, Andreas Schuld, Erwin Rose and family, Roberta Baskin, the Connett family, Colin Beavan, Sam Rowe, Karen and Hans Hendrik Roholm, Eleanor Krinsky, Alan Klein, Bill and Gladys Shemp, who put me up in their home in Donora one night, Elizabeth Ramsey, Lynn Page Snyder, and Peter Myers, whom never met nor spoke with, but whose splendid research led me to the papers of Charles F. Kettering. Thank you all.